Hi, I've got an ilife V5 Pro, and what I'm going to do is to demonstrate whether or not it can clean this room on a single charge. Now if we have a look at, there's the ilife, the V5. If we have a look at, oh, and there's a doggy. If we have a look at the room, we can see it's pretty filthy. You know, I've deliberately left it like this for some while in order to build up a level of dirt. So I'm going to first of all vacuum it, let the machine vacuum it, and then wash the floor as well. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I've already moved all the major items out, all the kind of movable things. What I'm going to do is, because steps like this tend to cause a bit of a problem, what I'm going to do is blow all the dirt off there and use something to stop the vacuum trying to climb onto the steps, because that just wastes time and battery power and stuff. Right, I've removed all the major things that are too big for it to pick up. Now it is going to need to be emptied several times because it's only got a small dirt box. Here it goes. And one of the reasons it will need to be emptied several times is because a huge amount of dog hair, which, oh, that's interesting, I wonder what's doing that. The huge amount of dog hair, which basically it's like tumbleweed, because we've got dogs which shed quite a bit of hair. Anyway, so it started on its mission, and so let's leave it for a bit and see how it goes. Now the fact that it's reversing in the middle of the floor suggests that the sensor under the middle wheel may have got a bit dirty, possibly. But no, well, let's see what happens. Well, it's been only running for about 2 minutes, and you can see the dirt box is full already, so I'm just going to empty this. Right, that's what it picked up in the first 2 minutes. Okay, so let me... Now that's not the original rear filter, but it's got a very fine mesh one, so I'll put some filter foam in there because actually it reduces the suction less than the main filter. So now look, that's the main filter. Okay, right, so this goes back in here. Oops. That's the trouble trying to do it with one hand. Now it needs to seat properly all round. And I'm just gonna, you can see there's some clog in there as well, so I'm just gonna wipe that out. This is why I tried to stop it climbing the step. It's not perfect, so it looks like I may need to manually intervene. It will usually unjam itself though, eventually. Okay, so you see that's how it ends up when it gets full, and even the inlet duct gets full. So this is the second emptying. Right, it's pretty much stopped picking up dirt now, so I've just stopped it, But if we have a look at the floor, now you can see most of the loose dirt has disappeared. Okay, all that stuff is stuck and that's dirty. They're stuck to the floor. But, you know, it's now much cleaner than it was, and including a lot of the, you know, pretty much all that mud, and it's really done a pretty good job. What I have picked up is a few bits that were just too heavy for it to pick up and it wasn't able to. So I'm now going to empty it again, and this is going to be its 7th empty. Now of course normally what you'd do, you'd be running it around a lot more frequently, so that it wouldn't actually have to get, you know, as chocker in the middle of the job. This is quite difficult to do with one hand. Let's have a look. Okay, right, so this is like the last of it. Still picking up some hair actually. Now when it's picking up dog hair, it fills up very quickly indeed. But look, all that dirt that's on top of the beer cans, that is basically everything it picked up off the floor in really only about an hour and a bit. So that's actually quite impressive. Obviously with being emptied like now 7 times. Okay, what I'm going to do now is send it back home to its charging base and let it find its own way. And press the home button. And it runs back to its charging base. You'll notice the fan isn't working and the brushes are only going slowly. And it does this actually when the battery runs low as well, and it reckons it can just about find its way home. It doesn't use anything different to find its way home. It uses the same random pattern of moving, and it just hopes there's some kind of tractor beam there that that homes in on. And what it does quite often is it thinks it's not quite right and it comes off and it goes back on again in a minute. And it does this little dance several times sometimes, probably because the charging thing isn't bolted down, so that's why it didn't work so well this time. Okay, so it's finished vacuuming the floor and it's a big difference, but now the battery's charged up, so I'm going to set it going to mop the floor. Now the original mopping function uses this, which is like a replacement for the dirt box with a water container. Doesn't contain much water, to be honest. I've found this doesn't really work well, so what I'm going to do instead is to spray the ground with water, leave this empty, but this is necessary because the magnet here stops the vacuum thing from running, and this bit goes underneath and mops the floor. So I found that's the best way, so that's what I'm going to do. So first of all, let's take the now empty dirt box out and put the empty water container in. Doesn't seem right, doesn't feel right actually. That is right. Okay. Right, so that goes in there, and now I'm going to spray the floor. Now it's got its work cut out cleaning that corner, that's for sure. And again, like the vacuuming bit, I'm going to have to stop it several times to clean the pad underneath. Wow, it's already cleaned that bit almost completely. Right, I've taken this off and it's now absolutely filthy, not very surprisingly. So I'm going to wash it and then put it back in and let it continue, because as you can see it's still picking up little bits of dirt and extra bits of fluff that have come off the dog since last time, and bits it missed before, and bits that have come off now the floor's wet. So you know, I knew that the floor would need, or this would require several washes while it's doing that quite large area. Obviously that's because it hasn't been done for quite a long time. Okay, sometimes it can take quite a while to realise that it's stuck, but eventually it will, and it will try to reverse. So finally, okay, the ilife V5 Pro is finished mopping, well basically kind of soaking up really. Now if we have a look at the floor, you can see how it is compared to how it was earlier, and there's been no, apart from a few big bits that I picked up that it couldn't cope with, I've not helped it. Now one area it didn't do very well is over here, and you know the dirt here was really kind of caked on. Even then you can see there's an improvement, and to some extent it began to drag the dirt from here elsewhere. But when you consider how that was at the beginning of the day, and it's done that on one charge for doing all the vacuuming, and in fact I didn't even finish the charge because I put it back to recharge before it was empty, and I don't know how much of a charge it's used for doing the mopping, but you know that's really very little. It's actually done a pretty good job. It's not perfect. There's some bits here, for example, didn't quite get up, but I haven't kind of done any manual mopping at all. There were some big stains there. There was a big stain under there, and there was a few other stains. I can't remember where they were now. But it's actually done a pretty good job. Obviously, this area was really exceptional, and that's the kind of thing you perhaps want to do manually anyway, or you do it more frequently before it gets like that. But so the bottom line is, I've got to move everything back of course, but the bottom line is this little thing actually does a pretty good job. That's a real world test. One thing I will say though is it is worth making a room you want it to clean robot friendly. So the kind of things that cause problems are here. Because it tries to climb up and it gets stuck, or takes a long time to work out this. And similarly here, where you've got a small ledge, it's not high enough to stop it climbing up, but it struggles to do it. So you either need to put like a row of bricks or something there temporarily, or something else that's going to stop it trying to climb up. But that's really a fairly small concession for what is really taking a lot of that's really saving you a lot of effort. So this was a really tough test for a robo-vacuum and with a mopping function. Bear in mind that I haven't used the mopping function the way it's supposed to be because I found it just wasn't really working. But the way I've used it, by spraying water over a very mild detergent solution over the floor first, so it's damp, and then setting the thing to mop, it's done a pretty surprisingly good job of mopping as well. Obviously, when the floor is dirty, either with bits or things, you do need to either empty the dirt box more frequently, or you need to clean the cleaning pad underneath more frequently. But, is it a gimmick or a gadget? Definitely a gadget worth having.